Well, we're back on the dart. So we're getting through one little issue at a time, but we've got her fired up and running really good. And the biggest thing once we fired it up is we had a massive overcharging issue on this thing. And as you can see, we've got one of the newer style voltage regulators with the white. I try to get this so it looked period correct. This came from Mancini Racing. I love Mancini. Mancini's great. But, and I know I need to reroute this under the master cylinder, I believe. But right now we're trying to get through all the issues. But the voltage regulator wasn't really doing anything. The alternator was going like full bore. It was going to like 19 volts. And of course we didn't run it, but just a few seconds like that. Took us a little bit. And then luckily I had a really good conversation with my buddy Joe Williams at Just Mopar Joe here on YouTube, his channel. We're talking about something, some other things, and I mentioned the voltage regulator. And it came back to me. I don't do this all the time on like full restorations. I don't do many of those, but I do remember some other Mopars. He reminded me that I needed to grind the paint off on the back of the voltage regulator. And obviously this car's been repainted, but to grind the paint off on the back, and then I use the teeth, the washers that have the teeth that bite into the paint, and then it's grounded. And then once we did that, and I also had issues with the M&H. I've still got to go in and correct some of the blade angles, but I think it was a culmination of both the bulkhead connector not making good contact, not being engaged to the blades. Those blades, somebody made a comment about, me being lazy and not really knowing what I'm doing. It's a great wiring harness and this and that, and it is, but you got a set of male blades and you got the female set. If those blades are off and they're cattywampus in any little way, that's not going to go in and click in. You can tell if it's cocked out. I've seen this on other Mopars. So we've got to go in and make sure all those blades are straight so it goes in and locks in like it's supposed to. But now, once we did that, we're back to like 13.9, 14.1 volts coming out of that alternator. So that's a good thing. So our oil pressure gauge works, our tachometer works, speedo. What I'm having an issue with right now is my fuel gauge. I've grounded the fuel gauge with my power probe and had Trish sitting there and look with Keon, look at the fuel gauge, but it's not moving. I just get a pulsing negative to light positive readout on my power probe. So I'm going to guess it's most likely a ground. There's a ground issue somewhere. Obviously, I have some issues on the wiring I'll clean up, and I'm trying to resolve these things. Right now, I've got to figure out, I'm going to have to just run basically the blue wire, because I'm running a Pertronix distributor. I need to eliminate the ballast resistor. And this wiring harness, I was told by my friend Steve up in Iowa, and he's correct, I believe in every which way, that the ballast resistor does go up here. Obviously it does, and he's right. But I've got to find the small resistor, I believe, because this one won't fit there. So I've got to get the right ballast resistor. But then I'll run the blue wire to energize the 12 volts to the coil. But if anybody has any suggestions on things I'm missing, please let me know. We're getting right along. We're moving right along. It looks like once we get the fuel gauge figured out, the engine, we put water in it, no leaks. It's all pressurized. It has a 160 thermostat in it. We ran 160s in Texas because you get down up to 108, 110 in the summertime. So I'd always run a 160. However, I don't think that was the right thing to do. I put a 160 in this one, and it's running so cool that it may hit 170, because we're up here in Oklahoma. It's a lot cooler up here than it is back in Texas. But it'll need to be driven. The clutch fan's working like it's supposed to, but the new radiator is working like a champ. That radiator is fantastic. So everything's working well. It's got a good sound to it. runs really well. Obviously, I have to run this temporarily to energize that coil, but back here, listen to the exhaust. I will say this battery, he obviously will need a larger battery. This engine's got a lot of cranking pressure, so he's definitely going to need a bigger battery with more amps because it's got plenty of squeeze. Not too much for pump gas, but it's right there. So yeah, everything's coming along. I just want to share that with the voltage regulator. Anybody out there with a Mopar voltage regulator, you're going through these issues, don't let the damn thing sit there and keep running because you'll smoke your whole wiring harness. So do not let it keep running. So always when you set this thing up, get you a test light or a power probe, anything, and you come off the power stud off of the alternator right here and just it'll tell you what it's putting out at. We're running the factory, obviously the factory wiring harness, so it's got the 2 field wires. We got those hooked up and it has little field wires if you're gonna run the factory system, the factory regulator. Obviously, a lot of people run the 1-wire alternator. I was told by Tom Keiss at Holly how much he hates them. So I think there's a certain reason for that. So anyway, just want everybody to see that. Hope everybody has a good day.